I want to bring up a speaker who was at the very first Gamification Summit and who has been an early pioneer and continues to lead the discussion of gamification in big media. Is Jesse Redniss. He's the Senior Vice President for Digital at NBC Universal and USA Networks, where if you're not an active user of it, I'm sure you will be by the end of the conference, he's completely redefined what it means to engage with an audience that watches television and uses the internet at the same time. My pleasure to introduce Jesse. Thank you, buddy.
Come on, Gabe. All right. How's everybody doing? All right. So how many of you out there watch television? Pretty much everybody, right? How many of you out there participate in television? Okay, nobody understands what I'm talking about here. So, at its very nature, when you think about television, I'm going to share a little story here. The word in itself doesn't actually really kind of represent what we're doing now in the media industry. When you break apart the origin words for television, tele and vision, tele being from afar, vision meaning, to see, the idea when they first launched the first televisions was that you're sitting down 15 feet away from this device that's showing you a one-way vision. It's telling a story through images and sound from 15 feet away, and you're sitting on your couch with your family, drinking your Ogilvy or whatever, and you're watching this story being told to you. And when you think about storytelling, the very origin of storytelling starts, think about it, around a campfire, a group of people, and you've got your storyteller there entertaining everyone in a very close-knit, personal environment. And so, I work at a television network, and I don't even believe that the future of television involves the word television at all. We're looking at basically the evolution of a word based on technology influencing the way that we're participating in the way the story is coming to life. So we look at, television, one-way window into another world. Now we're going television, in which social platforms, digital, is really enabling people to share their stories on digital platforms in written form, video form. Create a vision, UGC, back in 2004, 2005, 2006, in which people were creating a lot of their own content and derivative content based on stories that they were hearing being shared on social and digital platforms. And now we're getting into a point where, for the television industry, we're at a point where it's about co-creating a vision. I'm not even sure you want to even call it a vision anymore. We're co-creating an engagement, co-creating storytelling. And at USA, what we mean by that is we call that our created with approach. And the best way to tell a story now is to partner with some of the best storytellers in the world, partner with some of the best fans in the world, people that are going to basically absorb these stories, and then partner with some of the best brands in the world that want to create these environments together. And so, the best way to really explain what I'm talking about here is actually to hear it directly from some of our great storytellers, our great writers and producers. They're going to talk about the influence of digital, the influence of two-way participatory culture, and the influence of games and gaming mechanics in their canvas that they're putting up every single week up in a television set to tell their story. And it's no longer 42 minutes. It's now 24/7, 365. So let's take a little listen to Aaron Korsh and David Bardis, who, if anyone's familiar with the great show Suits, they're the creators of the show Suits.
Suits is a show about a law firm and the people in it, and at its core, two lawyers in particular, Harvey and Mike.
Unfortunately, you haven't even gone to any law school.
What if I told you that I consume knowledge like no one you've ever met, and I've actually passed the bar?
Okay, hotshot.
Digital storytelling is an essential part of any television series today. You've got to give the audience different ways into the show. For us, we've been able to extend the show either through webisodes or interactive digital programs that allow the audience those different ways in, whether it's between episodes or between seasons.
This is good. We're gonna have some fun.
Suits Recruits allowed people to feel like they were a part of the firm of Pearson Hardman. They came in and they were hired. It was either an assistant or a paralegal, and they interviewed and they answered to a different person depending on what track they chose to be.
Welcome to Pearson Hardman.
There was a case that they got involved in and could help solve, and it then would unlock certain webisodes.
Did you wrap it up?
I'm working on it.
That sort of enhanced the appeal of the show and I think honestly build the audience.
Think bigger.
Suits Recruits combined with the webisodes gave us a chance to show different sides of our different characters and break the boundaries a little bit.
Yes. Up top, come on.
People want to just go deeper into the show and learn more about the characters and go into their backstories and go into a website where they can really kind of feel like they work at the firm.
People just don't like that he's right all the time.
You think I like it?
The digital experience with USA has been incredibly positive and successful for us as a show, and it's allowed us to extend the characters and the relationships beyond just what we're doing in the show.
Come on, admit it. I kind of rocked your world.
What it does for fans, it also does for us. From Suits Recruits to the webisodes to Twitter, the Facebook page. These are all ways that they can interact with us, and we can kind of get a sense of how they're feeling about the show, and it's just a really positive thing.
So how many of you out there have actually participated with television before? Now think about that in a different way. There's new shows that are coming out. Defiance is a great new show that just launched on Monday, in which the game play, and they launched an MMOG, actually influences the show, and the show influences the game. There's a lot of different opportunities around The Walking Dead, things that we've done with some of our other shows like Psych. Anybody do participatory television? You're tweeting while you're watching television? Anybody? Raise your hands. Okay, a couple more hands now. So one of the core things that we really pride ourselves on is understanding who the people are that are watching and participating in our storytelling. Digging deep into the psychographics of who they are, how they're utilizing technology, how they're utilizing basically their community to tell stories, to share experiences. And we're really digging in and trying to figure out how is that going to then influence our content creation, not just content creation in regards to telling the show story, but also in all the ancillary content we're building around that show to enhance it and bring it to the next level. When we start really digging in, we're noticing that USA Network, it's the #1 cable network out there, but it actually skews pretty old. You know, on air, it skews average age is about 49 years old. But we're so active in the digital and social space and creating content that people can engage with, play with, change, and share that we're starting to really penetrate into the digital and social world in a way that we've become a leader in the space by providing a lot of these stories to the viewers, to the participants, to help them create themselves. When we stack ourselves up against some of our competition, our viewers are really active in writing on blogs and sharing and posting on Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook, what have you. I think everyone now in the world is doing that. But how are we doing it in a way that they're now participating in our overall storytelling experience? And so when we dig a little deeper into Suits, we start to understand that we've got 500,000 people on Twitter. We've got 1.2 million fans on Facebook. These are the areas in which we're just scratching the surface on how we can actively engage these people. When you look at the on-air numbers, how many people are exposed to Suits on air, it's 36 million people. And if you remember from the video, we had about, 400,000 people come into the Suits Recruits experience. Now, that's basically about 1% of the overall people that are exposed to Suits, the show, are coming into this deep experience. But 400,000 people coming into a co-created participatory experience, that's a big number. It's a powerful number. Now, 3 years ago, that number was 40,000 people. So we've exponentially grown in the course of about 3 years, 10x. I think that's a pretty amazing stat when you think about the growth trajectory enabled by digital platforms, enabled by practices and philosophies like gamification to motivate people to come into these experiences and create. When we get a little bit further into Suits Recruits, one of the things that is really important to us as a business is being able to do this and make money. I'm going to be the first person to say it up here on stage, but at the end of the day, as much as we love to entertain and bring society forward, we still have to fund things. And we have to walk that fine line with clients. Lexus is one of our great partners that we partnered with to bring Suits Recruits to life. And we do it in a way that has that creative with approach. And so what I mean by that is in the way that we're creating content with our consumers and our viewers, in the same way they're creating it with our storytellers, we're doing it with the brands. Every brand has a story to tell. Now, how do you bring that story to life in a way that can coexist with the story you want to tell as the storyteller for Suits? And so we have to walk a really fine balance in between creating an environment that's going to really bring people in and allow them to basically put themselves in the shoes of our characters, which is what Suits Recruits really does, as well as telling the story of the Lexus brand. We started doing this about 6 years ago when we started building mini games out of show IP. And it started with, Monk. If anyone was a big fan of Monk, took place here in San Francisco. But it was an OCD detective, and he would clean everything obsessively. And one of the main sponsors was Clorox. And we actually built a mini game that basically put you in the role of being Monk and cleaning up San Francisco. It was called Monk's Mind Game. And you used Clorox products to help clean San Francisco so that Monk could actually walk around and go about his daily business. And that proved to be a huge hit, and we started developing more and more experiences out of that. But the big key for us was figuring out how do we get people to actually really engage, to become part of the story, to help drive where the narrative goes. Because at the end of the day, people use television and entertainment to escape. They want to live a much bigger and richer life, and they can dream bigger when they can watch, beautiful people, great, entertainment situations that can take them outside of their own daily life. But how do you really become part of that? How can you really pretend to be one of those people? And so we started developing experiences like Suits Recruits to really enable people to do that a lot more. So this video actually gives you a pretty good deep dive into Suits Recruits and how it works, the mechanisms that we use to really bring in that participatory culture, pitting people directly in as a character within the story, which then created 400,000 very personalized stories because you weren't just responding to and being a recipient of the story, you were participating in the story and driving where the narrative went. So let's take a look.
USA is the leader in social TV.
That's a good start.
And when USA joined forces with Lexus, we set the gold standard for brand partnerships in the digital space.
Sounds like a plan.
USA worked with Lexus to organically weave their brand into the hit show Suits, establishing the Lexus LS 460L sedan as the official vehicle of Pearson Hardman.
I'm impressed.
That partnership continued in Suits Recruits, an immersive multi-platform social game that invited Suits fans to join the law firm as a paralegal or assistant and work with the cast to solve one of their toughest cases.
It's gonna be fun.
Lexus was an integral part of the online experience as players used the sedan to navigate within the game. This multi-week digital story was developed with the show's creative team to dovetail with the on-air plot.
Welcome to Pearson Hardman.
Transitioning seamlessly between exclusive video, audio, and text, users could read case details, interact with their favorite characters, be part of the firm's intrigue,
Oh my god, you're gonna want to hear this.
and enter to win a $50,000 signing bonus, courtesy of Lexus.
Isn't that what everybody wants?
Fans were rewarded for engaging with content, sharing socially, and bringing their friends into the experience. Fan engagement was captured around the water cooler, a unique version of USA's character chatter created specifically for Suits Recruits.
Nicely done.
The results were suitably impressive,
I'm good with numbers.
all with a tremendous upside for Lexus, which goes to show when you partner with the #1 network, you get results that are second to none. At USA, it's not brought to you by, it's created with. USA, characters welcome.
So I think what's really cool about this whole experience is that we worked directly with all the show writers and producers to come up with an overall narrative arc that wasn't just one story being told. Let's see if we can go backwards here. It involved two different paths in which you can enter the game experience. You could basically be an assistant or you can be a paralegal. And what's great about the way that we learned, because the main focus of what I'm really here talking about is long-term engagement, is that during the first season when we launched, because this was during the second season, the first season when we launched an experience is more of a singular user experience. You could see a lot of social conversation happening around the experience, but you couldn't actually really participate with other people in this type of experience. And so what we did is we actually created a narrative that had two different story arcs that paralleled, and you actually needed to match yourself up with an assistant if you chose to be a paralegal, or with a paralegal if you chose to play as an assistant, in order to get the complete story. So in order to progress through the game and through the experience, you need to find a buddy. And you need to share information on a daily basis. So this wasn't a, the show is on Thursday nights at 10 o'clock. This wasn't an experience in which you came into and you played once on Thursday night and then you were done with the experience. This really was an experience that was pushing out pieces of content, narrative, engagement, 24/7, 365 for a total of 7 weeks. So we did it 2 weeks leading into the new series premiere, and then continued for 5 weeks. And each episode in the game in which the narrative crisscrossed with the show on Thursdays, so that you were basically led all the way up to a point where the narrative of the game crisscrossed with the narrative of the show. Nothing happened in the game for the hour in which the show is on, so we're basically pathing people back into watching the show every single Thursday night live, because we care about live ratings here at USA. And then out of Thursday night at 11 o'clock, the game would continue. More content would be released, more story would be released, and people would keep on engaging. One of the other things that we're really proud of is Psych in Hashtag Killer. I was up on stage here last year and sharing the story about Hashtag Killer, an Emmy-nominated transmedia experience. And the thing that we really found out about Hashtag Killer was that people loved being able to take all the content and sharing it everywhere they possibly could. So at the end of the day, we ended up with 500,000 brand ambassadors for Psych that were putting out our content, our story, and their story in their social space, sharing it, resonating to about 98 million people worldwide that were pushing out the brand and discussing and sharing the brand of Psych. When the show came back after we launched Hashtag Killer, ratings in the 18 to 35 demographic were up 41%. This is a show that's in its 7th season. So if most television shows that are in its 7th season, they're seeing ratings decline. And here we created a universe in which people can participate in story creating. They can basically share it anywhere they wanted to. And they really become part of what the show is about just by creating a very unique gaming storytelling experience. And so we used those same findings into Suits, and we saw very similar results. We launched Suits Recruits, and we actually saw an increase of about 10% of ratings engagement happening live when the show came back in the most recent season. So at the end of the day, for us, looking at the future of what television really is, media engagement really is, we know at its core, it's really about getting people to participate, to co-create with great stories. And the stories at the end of the day may not be our own. It might not be stemming from our own great storytellers that we have. It might be from all the people sitting here in this room, all the people watching our shows that have something to tell and being able to share it in a much bigger and broader way. So thank you all very much. I'm sticking to my 18 minutes.
Thanks, Jesse.